So during the spring, I've been watching quite a few things, and I came up with the idea for a video series where I cover all the media I've experienced in each season. I'll cover all the anime, movies I've watched, and all the video games I've played. The reason being, because I have nothing better to do. Keep in mind, these won't be full-on well-researched reviews or anything. More like overall thoughts and impressions. Because if I made a full review for everything, well, this video would be like 2 hours long. Also, because I feel like it would be limiting if I don't, expect spoilers. So if you see a show that you don't want to be spoiled for, then skip it. I will put in timestamps. With that being said, let's get into all of the animated stuff I watched. Because that's really all I watch nowadays. So first, I'm going to talk about a very small, obscure anime, Attack on Titan. So, I may be possibly a fan of the series. It's consumed me. Attack on Titan Final Season Part 2 Electric Boogaloo, featuring Donna from the Devil May Cry series, just like the previous seasons, blew up expectations. Now, I am a manga reader, which means I have the knowledge of everything that happens, but it was quite fun to see the anime only's reactions. And also Twitter being clowns. The CG in this season actually improved a lot. There's some really great shots with it. Of course, I personally never had that much of a problem in the last season. Of course, Twitter, once they catch even the slightest CG, feel the need to panic. What's funny is while last season was going on, X-Arm was also airing, and like, do you see the difference? Like, this is what bad CG actually is like. That being said, there's actually a lot more moments of hand-drawn Titans in here as well. And like actually really good 3D maneuver gear animations. The directing in Attack on Titan has always been great since Season 1. In Season 4, it has been no exceptions. One of my favorite scenes is the aftermath of Grisha killing the Race family. Other than the fact that this twist is actually amazing, just seeing Grisha have this panic attack with the amazing voice actor and music, it just creates such a raw, gut-punching emotion. If I had any complaints relating to the story of the season, it's definitely the part about Connie's mom and him trying to kill Falco or whatever. This is the part I always had problem with, even in the manga, where it kind of felt out of place and a bit rushed. But everything else about this season, I liked. From Hanji's speech, the rumbling, and of course, God Mode Eren. Also the port fight, which they really didn't have to go this hard on the animation. Like actually, it's incredible. Never in my life was I ever expecting Connie Sakuga. Also, this moment, I just, like, this is actually overkill, and I kinda love it. This wasn't even in the manga, I'm pretty sure. They just decided to go crazy, and I'm glad they did. Anyways, if you haven't watched AOT yet, what are you doing? Get on it. That's a threat. So, typically I'm not super into sports, therefore not really into sports anime, but I decided to actually try out Birdie Ring, an anime about golf. Yay. I find it funny that, of course, being anime, they made the sport super dramatic and over the top when it's golf, which is the sport that just makes me want to sleep. So for the first couple of episodes, it's relatively simple. They're just, playing some golf matches and some tournaments. It's very normal and stuff, for the most part. Then midway through, there's just suddenly getting super deep in the mafia. There's explosions, characters die. Like, what is happening? So yeah, this show is kind of bonkers and also kind of dumb, but in a fun way, I suppose. I personally didn't really care about the story that much, especially once the mafia stuff were in it and the characters feel pretty two-dimensional to me. The animation for the most part is just fine. It's not offensive to the eyes, but it's not amazing either. The show honestly confuses me, like I don't know how this is a real anime and why it's as bonkers as it is. So this is a show where basically singing heals people. And that's really all you need to know. At first I thought that this was going to be basically just another idol show, but when I watched it, I realized that this really isn't actually even an idol show at all. it's more accurate to just call this a anime musical, because characters will just break into song at any minute, which is not something I'm usually used to in anime. But I do actually like the music in here, it's very nice. The show is honestly very wholesome and relaxing, so of course my weeb trash self quite enjoyed it. I actually quite like the character designs of the 3 girls. It's simple but looks nice, and the animation in this show is surprisingly good. There's a lot of times during these songs where they show a visual representation of the song, but I do wish that there was a bit more variety in the visuals. I hope you like grass. I mean, you probably don't because you watch anime, so yeah. One of my complaints is that the characters kind of feel the same to me, especially the main trio. I don't know if this is just me, but like I feel like they sort of done a bit more to make them more unique from each other. I don't think this is the type of show that would be remembered for years, but it's definitely a nice watch. It suits my weeb trash brain just fine. Aharen. How do you pronounce? Aharen. Aharen. I watched this whole series and I can't pronounce her name. Aharen-san. Yeah. Aharen-san. It sure is anime. Yeah, I honestly don't really have anything of note to say about this one. It's just cute, I guess. It tries to be funny, but it doesn't really land for me, and it gets old pretty fast. Also, there's a fidget spinner episode. Like, is this for real? I was honestly pretty bored watching this, and you may ask, why'd you watch it then? Because I hate myself. So basically someone watched Power Rangers and was like, but what if they kissed? And you get this show. And you know what? I like it. The show is honestly super wholesome, and it hurts. It's fun seeing them trying to hide the secret of them dating, and also just seeing them interact. Like, my heart can't handle this. Also, Desumi is best girl for this season, fight me. I do like the main two, Desumi and Fudo, but I don't really care that much for the side characters. The show is, of course, not the most complex, and it's very simple, but I do recommend it if you want to turn your brain off and die from cuteness. So speaking of cuteness, a show that's even cuter than the last is Spy Family. Spy Family have definitely took over the internet. I see so many fan art of it. I really love the family aspect of the show. It's just way too cute. And every time Anya does her I die from the wholesomeness. Seeing Anya's reaction to whatever she listens to people's minds, especially yours, always gets me. And Anya also has a ton of great faces in here that I would definitely use as reaction images. I also really like Lloyd's character development and how he becomes more and more like an actual father, even if he doesn't realize it. He may be an adopted father, but he is father of the year. The animation in the show is surprisingly great. Going in, I was honestly not expecting such a high quality production, but I am very happy that it got this treatment. I personally can't wait to see where the rest of the series goes. Other than Attack on Titan, this series also probably have my favorite opening and ending of the season. I like the song, and I think the style and directing is great. Also, I just wanted to talk about this actual child. Like, I thought Reiner was impressively buff for his age, but this kid takes the cake. It's like if you casted The Rock to play a 5-year-old. Daddy! I watched it finally. Are y'all happy? Can you shut up about it already? Anyways, it's pretty good. Now I know pretty much nothing about League of Legends because I touched just the right amount of grass. So I really like this show. I was invested the whole time. I really like these characters, and all of the characters feel three-dimensional to me, and I can really understand all of them, like their motivations and decisions. I also find Jinx a very interesting character. and thinks he's an example of how to do a broken character right. I really love the animation style. Everything has this hand-painted look that really works, and the fight scenes are just great. The directing is great as well. They really use the visual medium to their full advantage, and a lot of it feels like a music video, which, if you ask me, is not a bad thing. There is a big time skip in the middle, since the first half acts like a prologue, and the time skip version of Vi is, Something that is really annoying, though, is that the series ends on a cliffhanger. Just...
I need more.
So I watched the first 2 seasons of Amphibia, and I gotta say, I quite like it. The show is basically a isekai, but frogs. I honestly really started to like all these characters. I especially love Polly and her chaotic energy. They have a fun dynamic, and I really like the dramatic tension between Anne and Sasha. I honestly think that Sasha is a pretty relatable and realistic representation of a toxic friendship, but I also like how Sasha isn't a one-dimensional bully, as he actually does want to change and become better. I also like the show's humor. It has a sort of sass and quirkiness that I like, and I also really like the art style, though the animation itself is mostly just fine. Nothing spectacular. The show also has some pretty heartwarming moments that really made me care for the characters. Anyways, if you don't mind watching the little kids show, I recommend Amphibia. I watched season 1 of Owl House, and like Amphibia, it is another isekai by Disney. And so far, I don't like it as much as Amphibia, but I still find myself enjoying it. The animation is mostly fine, but there are some standout scenes though. My favorite part of the show so far is the relationship of Luz and Amity. It did feel like Amity's starting to like Luz was a bit too quick, like it feels like she suddenly becomes a different person. But other than that, I think the relationship is really cute, and the dance scene is just legendary. Also, Hootie is a thing of nightmares. Like, if I started to hear his voice at night, I'd run. I watched season 1 and 2 of Harley Quinn, and this show was actually brutal. Like, there's a lot of blood and gore, almost too much. Also, the dialogue can feel like it was written by a 13-year-old who just learned how to swear. Like, there's an F-bomb like every 5 words sometimes. The animation is a bit too stiff for me. It gets better in season 2, but I'm not super impressed with the animation. But other than that, I did find myself liking this show. I do think it's pretty entertaining seeing these villains in super casual situations, and I do like these characters. I think the best Harley Quinn stories are the one about her trying to find independence, and I was actually rooting for Harley during the show. I also really like the other characters, like Poison Ivy or King Shark, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually love Kite Man as a character, and his relationship with Ivy. And I also feel really bad for him at the end. Also, Joker is a incel in here, which fits perfectly to the people online who idolize him.
Women aren't funny.
So it's pretty great to have a good Batman movie after the last representation of Mr. Vengeance, because right off the bat, I want to say that the cinematography is actually fantastic. Gotham looks great, and I love the use of lighting and color. It definitely has a lot of inspiration from film noir, which makes perfect sense for Batman. And I think Robert Pattinson did a great job as Batman, and it's really funny considering how far his career has gone since Twilight. One of my complaints about the film though is I wish the characters was fleshed out more. Like, I feel like a lot of moments would have been more impactful if we knew more about them and spent more time with them. And I also wish we got to see Bruce Wayne more often rather than just Batman. I do like the Riddler in this movie. He feels actually threatening, but But at the same time, I also kind of wish we got the more Chad version of the classic Riddler. Especially with the design, because I don't like the look of the Riddler. I just don't. My favorite aspect of the movie is 100% the whole murder mystery and the detective stuff. And I like how Batman isn't always right and how much the situation keeps getting bigger and bigger. This movie is really great at setting a tone, and it definitely is a good rival to the Dark Knight trilogy. So the new Doctor Strange, I'm kinda mixed on it. There's things I like and things I don't. Like, I really like the directing with Sam Raimi's style. Like, he can somehow make exposition look visually interesting. A lot of it thanks to the editing, of course. But the story is kind of just okay. First of all, the first act of the movie don't really feel like a first act. It feels like it throws us into the middle of a movie. Also, I'm a little mixed on Wanda being a villain in this one. On one hand, I do think she's actually legit a threatening villain. But also, I feel like it kind of ruins her development from WandaVision a bit. Speaking of Wanda, a lot of her scenes is definitely coming from Sam Raimi's history of horror films. So one of the new characters in this movie is America Chavez, who was a character. Yeah, I just could not care about her at all. Also, I don't think her acting is particularly that great. I actually wish they did more with the whole multiverse thing. Like, imagine him going into Sam Raimi's Spider-Man universe, or the Spider-Verse, or a Lego world, the real world, I don't know. Anyways, overall, it's aight. So Moon Knight is basically what if a superhero had a bunch of mental issues. I can relate. I was honestly quite pleased with this show. I was very much invested a good portion of it, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that I don't know everything from the start. I'm constantly questioning what's going on and what's happening, but in a good way. As each episode, I was very interested in trying to find out the answers. And I find Mark/Steven's split personality really interesting. And I like how there's an actual explanation that goes deeper than he's just crazy. I don't really care for the other characters that much, other than the protagonist. Like the villain, who I honestly forgot the name to. I'm not really sure what his whole deal is, to be honest. I also might not be paying attention that much, or dumb, I don't know. I do actually think that Moon Knight's costume in this one is actually perfect. But I do wish we got more Moon Knight, but whenever we get him, it's cool. Also, I love Moon Knight in a tux. Like, I want to cosplay that. The ending here was kind of underwhelming for me, though. Like, it was kind of confusing, and it didn't really feel like an ending. And I don't know if I'm the only one. But anyways, it's pretty cool. So, Star Wars. The property that has been getting ruined for a couple decades now. Honestly, I'm pretty disappointed with this one. Honestly, I liked the slower pacing of the first two episodes, seeing Obi-Wan at his lowest and just living a boring life and just trying to survive. But after the first two episodes, I started to lose more and more interest. I feel like the show has a lot of great ideas, but lacks in execution. Especially with this character, who I actually forgot the name of. Also, the cinematography is pretty lacking, in my opinion. Like, there really was not a lot of standout visuals. In fact, a lot of them I'd say was even kind of bad. The fight scenes are also kind of lame, and it has a lot of problems that I have with a lot of blockbuster action movies. In that there's too many cuts and the camera is way too close to the actors. One thing I do like, though, is Darth Vader. I love how brutal Darth Vader actually is in this show. But other than that, the show is pretty lame, honestly, and I'm kind of sad about that because I feel like it could have been so much more. So, Morbius was definitely one of the movies I've watched this year. It definitely had a story and visuals. So this is my very first Tales of game, and I quite enjoyed it. While I definitely don't think it'll ever be among my favorite games list, I did enjoy my time. I mainly loved the combat. I like trying to do all of these characters' combos and gaining new moves and becoming stronger, as it's very satisfying. The game is also relatively challenging, mainly during boss battles. Or maybe I just suck, I don't know. The visuals are also very pretty, especially with the environments and particle effects. I didn't really care for the characters or the story that much though. I kinda checked out whenever it was time for the story, which is a lot of the game. To me, it's pretty standard RPG stuff. It felt pretty generic, and I don't really care for the characters that much, except maybe Shion. By the way, I do tend to play Kisara though, because I like how she plays in the combat and other reasons. Finally, after years, we get a re-release of Persona 4 Arena on modern consoles. While it may be more simple than other fighting games in its gameplay, it's still very fun. And I like the variety of characters, some of which have very unique mechanics just for that character. By the way, if you're wondering, I main best girl Naruto. The story is in the form of a visual novel, and I'm gonna be honest, it's kinda tedious. And long, and just boring. Yeah, it's sort of the same kind of fights happening because of misunderstandings that happen in like every fighting game story mode. Also, this story mode, I swear, is like a total of 10 hours for a visual novel in a fighting game. Other than the meh story, the gameplay itself is pretty good, and I only wish there was more people online to play with. So sometimes I just want to relax and turn my brain off, and that's what Kirby games are to me. Therapy games. This is Kirby's first full 3D game, and I gotta say, Kirby really does translate well in 3D, and I'm surprised it took them this long to get his first 3D treatment. Overall, I really like this one. It's nice, relaxing, let me forget about all my deepest fears and regrets, and I can listen to some lovely tunes. I actually wish the game was slightly longer or had more worlds, because when it ended, I was kind of like, wait, that's it? And by the way, yes, I did play the true ending after the credits. I really like the boss fights in here. I just like smacking them around with my sword and dodging their attacks, and yes, this is all I need for my monkey brain. Every time Kirby goes into mouthful mode though, it's just the most cursed thing. But I kinda love it. So, when I was a kid, I was super into LEGO, and as a result, I was super into LEGO games. But I've stopped around like 2013, as I was too old for that stuff. Yeah, look where I am now. Anyways, it's been years since I've played a LEGO game, but Skywalker Saga was actually the first one since then that I was kinda interested in, as it actually looked pretty good. So I did play it, and yeah, I'm actually pretty surprised that the game actually changes up the LEGO formula. The lightsaber combat is actually really fun, and you can do combos now. Like, I'm not joking, this game has combo videos. Like, that's actually insane. The game is also surprisingly pretty for a LEGO game. I do wish each level was actually longer, because a lot of them feels too short, especially compared to the other LEGO games. But going through each Star Wars movies with the charm of LEGO games was a treat. And this game is literally just memeing the whole time. Like, General Grievous literally dabs. Like, what am I looking at? So, after LEGO Star Wars, I decided to play some other LEGO games. But this time, I'm just gonna do a quick summary of my thoughts into them, because they are more or less the same. LEGO Batman 3 was pretty underwhelming. The story really felt like a filler episode in a greater story, and the levels I just really didn't care for. LEGO Marvel's Avengers. Sure to have just waited until the end of Infinity War movies, but whatever. Yeah, the game is kinda dull, and they just use the lines from the movies, which just always sounded really weird. LEGO Marvel Superhero 2 is actually pretty good. I really like the variety of levels, as there's a lot of very different themes and settings around the levels, and it's very fun. The boss fights are much more just combat button spammy, and you know, if you know Lego games, you just play it like this. So that about sums up all the stuff I've experienced during Spring 2022. Once again, not a comprehensive review, though I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get some actuallys in the comments. But whatever, it's like just my opinion, so I respect it, I guess. Well, it's the internet, and I know y'all can't do that, but I do plan to have this as a series each season to just have one big video. Also, I've been gone for like 10 months, but I'm back now. Let's see how long I can keep this up now. Or maybe I'll just disappear again. It's so sad Steve Jobs died of Ligma. Who the hell is Steve Jobs? Lick my balls.